Iko Nini. So last week kuna story fulani nilibaki nimecover, na hii story ilikuwa ni juu ya buda fulani anaitwa Amos Isoka. And Amos Isoka alikuwa na shida ya meno, alafu akabaki ameishia kwa clinic fulani inaitwa Life Clinic. Alafu they ended up like extracting the tooth, and eventually akapata complications where throat yake ilienda pikifura. And that's the time that waka notice that the doctor that had done that procedure was actually a quack. And the interesting thing is, by the time Citizen walikuwa naenda kureport this story, the quack was still there and still operating. And I remember even when I was covering that, nikisema that sikupenda vile huo journalist but alikuwa na show huo quack respect anamuita daktari. But then what happened? After the story aired, this quack doctor went into hiding. But this is not where the story ends, because the story ilienda up happen like ilienda up get worse. Because now jana ilikuwa reported that Amos Isoka alidedi, and this was after 2 surgeries at KNH. Wacha tucheki vile story ilikuwa reported.
Na mkotanzia sasa, ambapo mwanamume aliyeng'olewa jino na daktari bandia katika mtaa wa Kawangware ameaga dunia. Amos Isoka aliyekuwa amelazwa katika hospitali ya rufaa ya Kenyatta alikofanyiwa upasuaji mara 2 aliaga kwa matatizo yaliyotokana na matibabu aliyopokea awali Kawangware.
So yeah, unacheki. So alienda Kenyatta hosi akafanyiwa 2 operations and still they could not save his life. And before that we cheki how his story ilikuwa reported, and even before we see his mother and we see his wife, and you can just see the amount of pain in their eyes. One of the things that we have to talk about is KMPDC let Amos Isoka down. And not just Amos Isoka, KMPDC keeps letting poor Kenyans down. What do I mean by that? A lot of these quack doctors are in poor neighborhoods, either slums, na kama wako kwa slums wako kwa rural areas, where they take advantage. Because don't forget, these people can't afford decent healthcare. They can't even afford hizo stories za SHA na SHIF. So what happens is, wakiwa na shida, they seek help ya daktari. And all you need to be a daktari, especially, and be recognized in a lot of these informal neighborhoods, ni just a lab coat. And it's up to KMPDC to go into these neighborhoods knowing that this exists. It's up to them to go into these neighborhoods and check out, because some of these hosi, unapataga hosi iko karibu na posho mill, nachiki unapata hosi iko karibu na, like, it's just 2 doors. Kama hosi kwa hizi slums, pata hosi iko karibu na place ya kuuza gas. Like, how does that work? It's up to KMPDC. You see, the normal average Kenyan akiona hivyo tafikiria, okay, that's okay. But it's up to KMPDC to make sure that there are no quack doctors operating. Like, okay, but wacha tuendelee.
Nje ya hospitali ya Kenyatta, familia ya Amos Isoka imepokea habari za tanzia ya Amos siku 15 baada ya kung'olewa jino visivyo. Imekuwa safari ya dhiki kwa familia hii kutoka Amos alipojipata mikononi mwa daktari bandia aliyemtoa meno bila utaalamu wowote katika hospitali hii ambayo imethibitishwa kutokuwa na leseni wala mhudumu kuwa na leseni ya kutoa huduma za afya.
Hapo ndio sasa wametuambia ati ama ametuacha, na mimi sina mtoto mwingine, kila kitu ni Amo, sina kila kitu mimi.
Hadi kifo chake, Amos alikuwa katika hospitali ya rufaa ya Kenyatta kwa wiki moja alikofanyiwa upasuaji mara 2.
Ndio niliambiwa Amos anafaa fanyiwa operation ya kifua. Daktari alianza kunieleza vile Amos usiku alikuwa. Akaniambia mapigo ya moyo ya Amos usiku ilikuja ikawa worse kupiga, ikakuja ikastop. Vile ili stop, Amos alienda kupampiwa vile unaweza saidiwa kupumua, lakini kwa bahati mbaya ilishindikana.
Unacheki the amount of pain kwa madhake hapo mbele, alafu unacheki the amount of pain kwa wife wake. And with this I can say KMPDC naenda tu kufa kwa hii nini, it's up to them. The average Kenyan cannot know a quack doctor. And these informal neighborhoods, these are the places these people will be in. After the informal neighborhoods, we have to go into the CBDs of the major towns. So we need to start with the informal neighborhoods in Nairobi. Saizi niko sure as I talk, there has to be a quack doctor somewhere in Mathare, Kibera, hizo neighborhoods, akina Dandora, Kariobangi, huko utakosa. Then after hapo we go to the next level. Lazima tuangalie Mombasa, tuanze na slums za Mombasa, slums za Kisumu, slums za LD, slums za, you start there. Then after hapo unaendelea ukigrow, una go into the CBDs, because the CBDs pia utapata kuna wale wako na macho ngumu. And yes, it's up to KMPDC. So this story gets worse, because even after Amos operation kutom save, they still, I think they're holding the body because they want money. It gets worse, but tuendelee.
Amos akatuacha saa 5 usiku.
Sasa mipangilio ya kumsafirisha Amos nyumbani kwao kijiji cha Kapkoi, kaunti ya Kitale imeanza.
Ninaambiwa Amos amekufa na ninaulizwa bill, ni clear bill. Utajua una clear bill, utajua unaenda kuangalia mwili.
Machiki akibonga jua bill, machozi natoka kwa macho yake. And as I keep saying, this bill needs to be footed by 3 entities. Number 1, KMPDC. Number 2, the Kenya government. And since the Kenya government in our own KNCHR, no, not KNCHR, KNH, then pia how? Why? Because KMPDC should have made sure that there are no quack doctors operating. Then the Kenya government should also make sure. It's up to the Kenya government to keep us safe. Why do we pay taxes? Tunapay taxes for vitu kama hizi happen. So for them to even try and claim that they want money, and I'm sure of course this family iko attached to the body of, but this would be the perfect situation whereby they are told keep the body. Mkitaka pesa yenu, just keep the body, because that's not Amos. But this is the situation that we have, and as I keep saying, this is KMPDC. This falls on their door. Like, it's up to you. We the citizens cannot know. Na kuna mother fulani pia alikuwa interviewed na citizen na shaisema hiyo kitu, that how are the normal Kenyans supposed to know a quack doctor?
So serikali yetu ituangalie na itusaidie. Amos aiza hata atafika nyumbani.
Si tujafeel poa. Kwa sababu huyo jamaa tena mwenyewe alikuja akatongelesha vibaya. Na si kitu tunaomba tu, hata ni justice ingefanyika. Juu hata si bana tuna ni si wawili ilikuwa tusaidie tu mama.
Safari ya Amos inaishia katika makafani ya hospitali ya rufaa ya Kenyatta, huku aliyetekeleza unyama huu akiwa angali huru. Asasi za serikali zile za usalama zikishindwa kumkamata siku 14 baadaye.
Ndio tunashindwa. This dude 14 days later has not been captured. How much of a genius is he? If he's the sort of person who waited for Citizen to cover his report before he went into hiding, how much of an Nini is he? And you'll even notice that one of the things that happened is alitry kuchange jina. Kumbuka hiyo place inaitwa Life Clinic. And I think the previous day KTN Citizen walikuwa do the same story, and I remember looking for that Life Clinic and I could not see it because walikuwa wameanza hata kubadilisha jina. That's how much this Quack was ready to continue doing whatever he was doing. And this, as I keep saying, this is a perfect situation, ama example of how we've let this country be lawless. Najua, we always lied to, like, oh, this is a country of laws. Which laws? If someone can operate on people, ni Quack. Kumbuka ule msekoitwa ni Mugo wa Irimo, ule alikuwa ananajisi patients wake. Then tukasikia kuna boy fulani, I think ilikuwa ni LD, na operate on watu. This has to stop. Najua. But wacha tusikie, wacha to go back to this, I think was on Wednesday, vile historia nani, this was before Amos Adedi, na vile wa doctors wa KNH walikuwa na bonga juu yake. And I think kwa hii ndio bado kulikuwa na hiyo clinic ilionyeshwa, na vile imeanza kuchenjiwa, and you'll see that clinic was next to place ya kuuza gas. Alafu apart from that pia ule mother, ule wali replay clip ya ule mother alikuwa anasema that how are everyday Kenyans supposed to know a quack doctor.
Mwanamume aliyeng'olewa jino na mhudumu daktari bandia huko Kawangware ameendelea kutibiwa katika hospitali ya Kenyatta, huku mhudumu huyo akiendelea kutafutwa. Amos Isoka alilazimika kufanyia upasuaji mara 2 ili kumuondolea maumivu aliyopata baada ya matibabu aliyofanyiwa.
Mecheke story anasemekana ilibidi afanyiwe 2 operations, and these 2 operations were by Wednesday. So inaka like what happened is hiyo Wednesday night kulikuwa na complications, afu akabaki amededi. Nacheki, and you can try and imagine just a simple tooth ni kitu moja hata maocha watu waganatolewa. So you can try and imagine how much of a quack this person was for him kumfanyia that level of damage. And yes, we know about Amos, but how many people have died under that person's hands and people didn't know? Watu wakassume tu kusachiki kuna zile za kwa ni direct, utanotice ameenda kutolewa meno akafura shingo. But what if is other cases where mtu ameenda pale maybe due to diabetes na ikifala kikamwambia akunywe soda? Understand, like such stories could have been happening and a lot of people could have died. And you find that when all this was happening, as I keep saying, KMPDC haiendagi kwa slums kucheck why there are hospitals next to posho mills and hospitals next to places that sell gas and hospitals even next to bars. Like hosi unapata ni milango 2 za chuma, like hosi na kiosk, like msawa kiosk leo anatoa vitu zake, the next day kiosk imegeuka kwa hospitali. Okay.
Imepita siku 4 tangu Amos Isoka pelekwe katika hospitali ya kitaifa ya Kenyatta, hali yake ya afya ikidhoofika baada ya kung'olewa jino na mhudumu aliyekosa utaalamu huo Kawangware.
When he came, like I told you, when he came the first time, we had to rush him to theater. By yesterday, this was looking, now it was clearing up in the neck because of the initial intervention, but it has since now spread and it's now accumulating about the chest. Okay. Yeah, and from the operation yesterday, that was cleared.
And we took him to theater for the second surgery that lasted till close to midnight, and then took him back to the critical care unit where he is undergoing continuous monitoring and also getting the treatment.
Achikio like alipelekwa mpaka ICU. So you can try and imagine without KNH what would have happened. I think hata hizo extra days that alipata angeget. And this is a situation whereby he was let down by the system and also let down by his country. I think sometimes we forget that the country is there to protect us. The country is there to keep us safe. That's why we also lipa the taxes. Now you have this situation whereby Amos Isoka. But tuendelee.
Madaktari wakisema kuwa Amos alipofikishwa hapa walikuwa na wasiwasi kuhusu hali yake.
This is a very dangerous situation because the infection is now tracking down through the neck, going towards the chest. To be honest, this is one that I've seen people who have within 20 minutes they have lost their lives. I can say one of the things that helped this gentleman was that he was rushed to theater the same day.
Meskevlo Buda amesema that sort of infection ashatikiki maliza mtu in 20 minutes. But somehow Amos, like body yake, I think he had a strong immune system. He tried its best, but still couldn't survive. And I think from up until they start showing the hospital, and they're there wondering, man, like I don't think any place and any space should be a hospital. I think hospitals have to have a certain level of majuzi tulikuwa na the architect anaitwa Waburiri, and Waburiri was telling us about sick buildings, where a building where there's no ventilation, there's no what. A hospital can't be still in a sick building. And if you had to ask me, that Life Clinic was literally in a sick building. It was a sick building is a building that's unfit for human occupation, and that's where the clinic was. And somehow it was able to survive there for 3 years. But
we had already confirmed in our records that that clinic does not exist in our records. The name that had been given also did not exist in any of our records. So this was generally an illegal clinic operating illegally.
Kliniki hii inadaiwa kutoa huduma hapa zaidi ya miaka 3 pasi na usimamizi wa kaunti ya Nairobi wala baraza la madaktari na hospitali nchini KMPDC kujua.
So nacheki nikigo back to hiyo hii video, I think nilikuwa hii iko karibu na gas. This is a different one. Nacheki hii inaitwa ni Jamii something center. I think ni Jamii Medical Center. Ingine ufa la mwingine, you'll see that he'd already alikuwa ameanza kurab jina. So jina yake haiko, cause that's like the last thing that he did before he escaped and ended up going wherever he was going. And this is very sad, because as I keep saying, this is someone who was let down by the system and let down by Kenya, let down by the police, let down by everyone, because there's no way ukiona where that clinic is. Because remember I said, I think this is the clinic that was next to either place ya kusiaga ama place inauza cereals. And I'm there wondering, like, which hospital is this that's next to a place that sells cereals? That makes no sense. But somehow it had been in operation for 3 years. Try to imagine 3 years.
Kliniki hii inadaiwa kutoa huduma hapa zaidi ya miaka 3 pasi na usimamizi wa kaunti ya Nairobi wala baraza la madaktari na hospitali nchini KMPDC kujua.
Huyu daktari amesomea hii kazi ama hajasomea? Sio sisi wananchi. Sisi hatuwezi ingilia biashara ya mtu. Hii ni biashara yake na hatuwezi jua kama amesomea ama hajasomea.
Chikiwa mother anasema clearly kabisa, hakuna vile the average citizen is supposed to know if the doctor that's treating them is quack or not. That's very hard. This has to be done by KMPDC, and we can even take it to the next level. Ile KMPDC yenyewe wakama hapo wasema that okay, maybe we cannot be able to monitor every nini. So what we are going to do is we are going to make sure that every landlord, before you ukubali mtu afungue hospitali kwa building yako, you have to make sure that maybe kuna website where you can check all their documents, and if you don't check the documents, then you are the one who's going to suffer the consequences, plus that doctor. So nyinyi wote wawili. So maybe that would make also landlords wasikubali, kuzumitikio like the clinic was next to some general shop, alafu next is a clinic. Like that makes no sense. Nachiki, because ukiwa msick, you don't want loud noises, you don't want contaminated air, you don't want what, and that clinic was in the middle of nowhere, and it's very sad because that led to Amos Isoka kudedi.
Haya yakijiri huku idara ya upelelezi ikipewa amri ya ofisi ya mkurugenzi wa mashtaka kuanzisha msako wa daktari aliyehusika na matibabu ya Amos Kawangware.
So ira imekuwa missing for the past 14 days, and I'm there wondering, the same police that are able to grab people in their houses for talking shit about the president, somehow they cannot be able to trace this guy. Makes no sense to me. But tukitoka hapo, let's go to even a more sad story. And this is a sad story about discipline. And one thing that our parents, a lot of African parents, don't understand, and the thing is, this respect is earned. You can't force it. And then another thing is corporal punishment is bullshit. Ajua, all this you spare the road, spoil the child nonsense, it's bullshit. And this is a very sad story. Like one of those stories that you hear and you there and you just start thinking of how messed up we are as a society. Why? Because beating up kids and hurting them is very normal kwa hii society yetu, and we've normalized it somehow. We've made it seem like, oh, without beating a kid, how are they supposed to get disciplined? And it's nonsense. A kid, you can just reason with a kid. And I say this as someone who grew up in a family that basically had zero corporal punishment. We slapped once in a while. Yes, mother alikuwa natuguzaga kidogo na pia slippers kidogo, but buda alikuwa natutouch. Nacheki, a lot of families wame grow up, mabuda zao wanawapiga, nini wanawapiga, and they think that that's normal, so they do the same to their kids, and this bullshit trauma just continues. And that's why unapataga that a lot of people have zero relationship with their fathers, and they think it's normal. Najua, you're like, if they are to sit down, if there's no alcohol between them, there's no conversation. There's zero conversation, cause all that walikuwa najua ni violence katikati yao. But wacha tucheki hii story cause hii sasa ni ile story ya very sad.
Tonight, police are searching for a father who allegedly assaulted his 15-year-old daughter and caused her death in Nairobi's Dandora estate. The man, identified as Nelson Omeno, is reported to have committed the act on the night of December 31st while in the company of the girl's stepmother at their Dandora home.
Pascal story, the nini of the stepmother, Machiki, Mama Kambo. And this is what's interesting. The Mama Kambo is still free. Alafu, what's even more horrifying about this story is Udem alipigwa. Yuko 15 years old. Alipigwa juu alienda kuvisit her biological mother. Try to imagine hiyo. That was her big crime. She'd gone to visit her biological mother. Then vile alirudi, akaanza kupigwa. Na both the mother, yani the stepmother and the father. But the father was the main culprit. Alafu, somehow, I think hiyo siku aliweza kubonga na madhake, akaambia madhake like nimetoka kuchapwa so kesho nikujie. But now she didn't make it. And this was her father. And I'm putting her father in quotes because that's not her father. But wacha tuendelee.
Home. According to reports, the father was punishing the girl for visiting her biological mother when the situation turned tragic. After the incident, the suspect allegedly dumped her body at Mama Lucy Hospital and disappeared.
So try kuimagine hii fala. So hii fala inadidisha daughter wake. Alafu inachukua body inaenda ina dump kwa hosi. Alafu inahepa. Alafu at some point pia I think ilipigia mother mtoi mwenyewe kamwambia wapatane hosi but kazima simu. So iko on the run pia. Just like that fake doctor. And this is one of the people wale they need to give us like clear images because this person needs to be arrested because damn, nikitry to imagine life your mtoi, I just feel sad. Like a father, this person is supposed to protect you. I can understand the whole Mama Kambo stuff where the Mama Kambo has zero connection to mtoi. But wewe, mbuni mtoi wako, unampiga mpaka dedi. Alafu nasikia Mama Kambo, ilikuwa makosa gani? Hakuna vile unaweza piga mtu mpaka akufe na ikuwe makosa. That was extreme. And this whole nonsense of parents need to punish their kids, it's nonsense. Physically punish, you can do all other forms of punishment. But physically, it's nonsense. Our fathers used to do it. Our great-grandfathers used to do it. And what did they achieve with that? What did they achieve? They raise kids with zero integrity. Why? Because these kids know that without violence, there's no reason for accountability. So what happens? As soon as we are adults, where we can't be punished in violence, we become the most corrupt people. We have the most corrupt society. And let's look at other societies where kids are not beaten. It's full of integrity. Why? Because people do the right thing, because it's the right thing to do, not because there's going to be punishment. But tuendelee.
Pamela Sunday, mother to 15-year-old Charlene Nyangweso, a grade 8 pupil, is devastated by the loss of her daughter. The tragedy takes a dark turn as her former husband and Charlene's biological father, Nelson Omeno, has been linked to her death.
Try kucheki the amount of muscle hiki mseki kwa nayo. Na kilichapa mtoi mpaka kadedi. So unza try kuimagine the amount of force that ifala iko inatumia. All this muscle. Mtoi wako, like, mtoi, not even mtoi wako, mtoi. Damn.
Has been linked to her death. Pamela says she was married to Omeno for 14 years, but the marriage ended and the children were placed in the father's custody. On December 26, their firstborn Charlene visited her mother and stayed with her until December 31st. According to Pamela, on the evening of December 31st, Omeno came to take Charlene back after a quarrel. It was after this that the situation turned tragic. Reports allege that he took her to his home in Dandora, where he began caning the 15-year-old.
And damn, man, isho nafanyaga ikuagi ya watoi. But ingekuwa ya watoi, ningetaka mtoi aju understand that any parent anakupiga hivyo, I deserve respect yako. Of course you unaweza pretend unamrespect, but as soon as uko free unafaa ku there are other ways. As I keep saying, mi nitajitumia kama example. Siku raiziwa na violence, and I think I turned out pretty okay. I think the only things that watu kadhaa wanaweza ni question ni vile sikuagi God fearing. Najua why? Because remember when I was talking about I don't do things because I'm afraid of punishment. Nachikio thou shall not, the utenda hell, uchomwe mpaka siku ya mwisho. You see, that's fear of punishment. Should just be do things because it's the right thing to do. Umtoi, I try to imagine yani like that's your father. Like umtoi alikuwa na feel aje? Because this, I'm sure was not the first time alipigwa. So for a very long time umtoi alikuwa na live in a world where I think parents are supposed to inflict maximum pain kwa watoi wao. That's what this kid believed in her 15 years, in that very short life yake. Because 15 years is very short. Mseka mimi ever since nitoke seko, right now it's going to be, this year it's going to be 28 years since nitoke seko. Umtoi alikuwa 15 years. I can take a whole 13 years, a whole 12 years, and I'll still have stayed out of school more years than Umtoi. How sad is that? Wacha tuendelee.
Setting in motion the events that would lead to her death.
Nilipiga simu, mama ya kambo ndo alishika simu. Mtoto akaniambia baba yake amemchapa. Akaniambia mama, baba amenichapa lakini kesho asubuhi unikujie.
Mesikia jina ametumia mama kambo. Back in the days kulikuwa na ngoma ya Professor Naman, mama kambo na baba kambo. So for a very long time tukunajua hizi stories ama step mom and step whatever. It's very few step moms to step dads who end up wakiwa reasonable, and in most times unapataga step dads are bound to be more reasonable than step moms. Kuna kuagana ile, I think it's just nature, ile the step mom anataka seed wake ndio kuwe taken care of, especially in such circumstances where there is a lot of poverty. Kutakuwa na hiyo design ya the step mom feeling like kuangalia mtoi kama threat na chiki, like to a certain level of. That's why, because let's say the step mom was not involved kwa kumchapa, kwa nini hakumstop? At what point this step mom should have reached certain level aseme no, this is too much. Na kuna shindwa hiyo story inaendaje. Make sure umewatch episode tulifanya na Habib. Na Habib alikuwa na bonga juu ya vile kuna time budao alikuwa na wachapa and their mother, who's their biological mother of course. So Habib walikuwa na chapwa yeye na Isa and na brother wao mwingine. Alafu kichapwa their mom, their birth mom tried to step in and afu akabaki amegongwa na budao. But it showed you she tried to stop that. She was like no, hawezi piga watoi wangu hivyo. Tried to step in. Who step mom of course didn't step in, and you'll see like when she's being interviewed, you can see according to me zero remorse. It was a mistake.
In the middle of the night, the girl collapsed after a severe beating. Nelson allegedly attempted to rush her to Mama Lucy Hospital, but instead dumped her body there and disappeared without a trace.
Baba yake alinipigia simu sasa date 1 kitu saa moja hivi. Akaniambia kuja tukutane Mama Lucy, na mtoto ako alimbaya, hata madaktari wamemwambia ako alimbaya. Mimi vile nilifika Mama Lucy bado tulikuwa tunaongea tu naye, akiniambia tukutane. Sasa vile nilifika hapo aka make sure nimefika Mama Lucy, na simu yake akakata na kazima mpaka
simu yake akakata na kazima. Let me go back to umtoi. So as I keep saying, this kid was 15 years old, and umtoi many remind one of the things that the conversation we had with Fares Karaoke here. That conversation, I always bring it up because it's something that Fares alisema that the family you are born into, that's the first luck that you get into. So this kid was born into a family where her father beats her to that level. Budake anamchapa mpaka ana dedi. So in her 15 years, in her short life ya 15 years, aliishi akijua fathers are supposed to do that. And nikiangalia hiyo situation yake, alafu maybe niangalia situation yangu kuza I'm a girl dad. And hata nikitoka hapo, so mimi niko tuna mtoi moja. And mtoi wangu ajui violence as a way of parenting. Then tutoke hapo, nikiangalia mse kama Ian na watoi wawili. Watoi wake wajui violence as a form of parenting. But mtoi, that's all she knew. And on the last day of 2025, she was beaten up so badly that alikuwa anaambia madhake ni kujia the next day. Beaten up so badly that akadedi. And that's the only life that she knew. And it goes back to your conversation here, Fares, the family that you are born into. That's the first lack that you get. And it's not just about wealth, it's about love. It's about just being introduced to this harsh, because life is already harsh as it is, najua. Now try and imagine and adding violence to that. Hafu na cheki kimseki na muscles. Chapa mtoi wake mpaka. And this also goes out to maybe you, msana ni watch. Maybe uchapaga mtoi wako and you believe that's the only way. And why do you believe that's the only way? Because your father told you that's the only way. But your mother told you that's the only way. But it's not. It's not. And it's not. Acheki hata nashindwa kuambia ni because it's not. And one day you'll cross. Kwa mimi nikishakasirika. Hizo nonsense zote. It don't work out like that. You can reason out with people. You can reason out with the kid. You can use other ways to punish them. But tuendelee.
Mpaka leo tena simu yake haijawahi ingia.
A crucial witness who is currently married to Nelson has recounted what happened.
But sisi sema ni kitu ilifanyika, ni kitu inafanyika. Ni ile mtu kukosoa mtoto. Bahati mbaya. Hiyo ni bahati mbaya.
Chiki ni mtu kukosoa mtoto. Chiki hiyo. And the way she says that, anaisema cause anajua the audience that's going to receive the message thinks that's okay. Kukosoa mtoto through violence. Acheki. And I've had hizo conversations kwa hii couch where I had such a conversation na Bobby Mapesa akibonga juu ya the extreme violence that budaki alikuwa na met on him. Till today they are not tight. Had the same sort of conversation na Mr. Lenny and the amount of violence that budaki alikuwa na nini kwake. And even by the time budaki alikuwa na dedi, because they not made peace. Acheki. And that also created a distance between yeye na madhake. The same way pia Bobby Mapesa, you will create distance between yeye na madhake. These things are not normal. And as much as a lot of people who grow up in such environments think it's the only way, it's not the only way. Vile mimi nitasema mimi kwa family yetu, like violence ilikuwa gani kidogo sana ya mother, anaweza kuchuna kidogo, anaweza pado kidogo, anaweza chukua slippers, akuhit like once twice, you wail, alafu anakuacha. And that was it. But nishayonaga like some of my cousins who are really beaten up kabisa. Did they survive? Yes. Do I think they beat up their kids? I think so. Because they think that's the only way. Because the some violence begets violence. But you can see, this does not look like a mother who's lost her kid. This literally looks like Mama Kambo. But that's just my opinion.
Hiyo ni bahati mbaya. Si kitu yenye mtu alikuwa anataka.
But questions remain. How did the deceased hands and legs end up tied with a rope when her mother first saw her body at the morgue?
Kwa amefura kichwa na huku. Hapa kulikuwa na damu. Hizi mikono zilikuwa zimefura na ni kama alikuwa amemfunga na kamba. Kulikuwa na nini maalama huku. Hadi kwa miguu pia ni kama alimfunga na kamba. Sasa alifungua kamba moja. Hii side nyingine kabaki na kamba hiyo.
Tusaidie mama at least apate jinsi ambavyo atazika mtoto wake, na kutokea hapo pia tupate justice ya huyu msichana anaitwa Charlene.
So Ushalin, man, all I can say is rest in peace. Umtoi amededi akifikiria that's normal, amededi akifikiria like that's what parents are supposed to do. And I always look at it now, right now that I'm a parent, I always look at it as lazy parenting. You're using violence. That's how I look at it, because kuna time mtoi wangu ni piece off kabisa, kuna time na ni disappointigi, but I always find ways like. And in 2025, can try and imagine this kid 15 years old, just maybe how older, maybe 5 years older than mtoi wangu, and this kid all alikuwa najua ni violence. And saizi fala, of course, coward, iko on the run, and somehow he needs to be captured, so I hope he's captured soon. But all neza sema John, rest in peace to Charlene. And it's too late to save Charlene, but maybe it's not too late to save mtoi wako from you. Najua, if that's all you know, it's time for you to change, and you can't justify that nonsense. Your stories just spare the rod, spoil the child. That's some biblical nonsense, I'm sorry to say. If that's all you can get from that book, that's nonsense. And of course watoi hawakuagi protected in this country, so you can do anything hata kufanyia watoi wako. The only time the government steps in ni kama mtu amededi. The government never steps in time parents hurt their kids kabisa. Hai kukuagi. And that's where the problem is. Like, hii country yetu, damn man, this country will break your heart. But yeah, rest in peace to Charlene, and yeah, Iko Nini.